The U.S. Supreme Court decision in Roe v. Wade to some extent supported that view when it ruled that a woman's right to terminate her pregnancy came under the freedom of personal choice in family matter and was protected by the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. We believe that a woman should be able to choose whether or not to keep a pregnancy. She shouldn't be forced into motherhood. We believe that this is important because women are still being criticized and shamed for choosing to have an abortion. Philosopher Mary Ann Warren begins her discussion of abortion by disagreeing with Judith Thompson, whereas Thompson stated that even if the fetus has a full right to life, abortion is nevertheless permissible. But Warren argues that if fetuses have a full right to life, then arguments in favor of abortion are pretty much doomed. So here is a common argument that anti-abortionists give. First, it is wrong to kill innocent human beings. Second, fetuses are innocent human beings. Therefore, third, it is wrong to kill fetuses. But Warren claims that the plausibility of the premises rests on an equivocation on the term human being. She suggests that human being, when used in the moral sense, is actually referring to persons. If members of the moral community refers only to persons, then fetuses are not members of the moral community, for they are not persons. They term fetuses may have some rudimentary consciousness and activity, but this is not sufficient to make the fetus count as a person. But then, fetuses have no moral rights. Consider, a scientist has created a billion fetus clones of you. In order to make them survive, he is going to need some of your flesh cells. Warren says, it would be permissible to destroy the billion fetuses merely to avoid a chunk of flesh taken from you. Your right not to be harmed is so much stronger than the fetus' rights to life. Therefore, abortion is permissible. So here, personhood is associated with these 5 attributes. First, consciousness. Consciousness of objects and events external or internal to the being, and in particular, the capacity to feel pain. Second, reasoning. The developed capacity to solve new and relatively complex problems. Third, self-motivated activity. Activity which is relatively independent of either genetic or direct external control. Fourth, the capacity to communicate by whatever means messages of an indefinite variety of types, that is, not just with an indefinite number of possible contents, but on indefinitely many possible topics. Last, the presence of self-concepts and self-awareness, either individual or racial or both. So she stated that at least some of these are necessary, if not sufficient, criteria for personhood, which is necessary and sufficient for moral standing. She argued that fetuses do not meet any of these criteria. Therefore, they cannot be persons and cannot have moral standing, and so abortion is acceptable. Warren claims that the more like a person a being is, the stronger is the case for regarding it as having a right to life, and the stronger its right to life is. There is no stage of fetal development at which a fetus resembles a person enough to have a significant right to life. A fetus' potential for being a person does not provide a basis for the claim that it has a significant right to life. Even if a potential person has some right to life, that right could not outweigh the right of a woman to obtain an abortion, since the rights of any actual person invariably outweigh those of any potential person. Moreover, she claims that even though a 7 or 8-month fetus has features which make it up to arouse in us almost the same powerful protective
Alright,
instinct as is.
your 5 minutes is over, Soriana. Thank you for that.
I,
Alright, let's proceed to your partner, Mama. You can resume your discussion, Soriana, once Mama will not consume the 5 minutes. All right, Mama, take the floor.
Okay. So, personhood begins after a fetus becomes viable or able to survive outside the womb or after birth, not at conception. Embryos and fetuses are not independent, self-determining beings, and abortion is the termination of a pregnancy, not the baby. A person's age is calculated from birth date, not conception, and fetuses are not counted in the U.S. Census. The majority opinion in Roe v. Wade states that the word person as used in the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution does not include the unborn. Access to safe abortion is a matter of human rights. Access to safe abortion services is a human right. Under international human rights law, everyone has a right to life, a right to health, and a right to be free from violence, discrimination, and torture or cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. Human rights law clearly spells out that decisions about your body are yours alone. This is what is known as bodily autonomy. Forcing someone to carry on an unwanted pregnancy or forcing them to seek out an unsafe abortion is a violation of their human rights, including the rights to privacy and bodily autonomy. In many circumstances, those who have no choice but to resort to unsafe abortion also risk prosecution and punishment, including imprisonment, and can be faced cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment and discrimination in and exclusion from vital post-abortion health care. Access to abortion is therefore fundamentally linked to protecting and upholding the human rights of women, girls, and others who can become pregnant, and thus for achieving social and gender justice. Amnesty International believes that everyone should be free to exercise their bodily autonomy and make their own decision about their reproductive lives, including when and if they have children. It is essential that laws relating to abortion respect, protect, and fulfill the human rights of pregnant persons and not to force them to seek out unsafe abortion. We should take motherhood seriously. Most female bodies can incubate a baby thanks to antibiotics, cesareans, and anti-hemorrhage drugs. Most of the mothers are able to survive pushing a baby out into the world. But parenting is a lot of work, and doing it will take 20 dedicated years of focus, attention, patience, persistence, social support, mental health, money, and a whole lot more. This is the biggest, most life-transforming thing most of us will ever do. The idea that women should simply go with it when they find themselves pregnant after a one-night stand or a rape or a broken condom completely trivialize motherhood. Misconception about reasons for abortion. Many people think women's reasons for abortion center around using it simply as a method of birth control. A common perception is that abortion is done for convenience and as an easy way out. Most women of every age, race, income level, parity, and education who choose an abortion cite reason having to be with concern about responsibility to children and other dependents as well as concern about the children they may have in the future. Women say they base their decision mainly on their ability to remain financially stable as well as being able to care for the children they already have. Women who had an abortion say it's not the easy way out. It's a painful and difficult decision she makes in consideration of what is the right thing to do by the child. It is a decision that will be with her for the rest of her life. So, common abortion reasons. So, we have a research collected from 2008 through 2010 asked women about the reason for getting an abortion. So first we have not financially prepared, which is 40%, bad timing or not ready or unplanned, which is 36%, partner-related reasons like including the relationship is bad or new, she doesn't want to be a single mother, her partner is not supportive or doesn't want a baby, or being abusive, or it is the wrong guy, which is 31%. need to focus in her other children, which is 29%, interferes with educational or vocational plans, which is 20%. Health-related reasons includes concern for her own health, the health of the fetus, use of prescription or non-prescription drugs, alcohol, or tobacco, which is 12%. Want a better life for a baby than she could provide, which
All
is
right.
12%.
Thank you, Mamak, no, for the delivery of your stance. It's already time. So that was a well combination with Soriano and Mamak for their stand on pro-abortion. All right. I'll give the floor to Group 7, the member of the Group 7 who will interpolate or who will ask questions. Either Soriano or Mamak, just address their last names. You have 5 minutes.
Good morning, sir. So, here's our question. So, you stated that there are 5 conditions of parenthood, and to be called as a being, one should be at least meet some of the condition, if not all. And if the unborn or the fetus cannot form anything like thoughts and abilities, does that mean that the value as a human being depends on the complexity of the thoughts and abilities?
Oh, I'm sorry. Who wants to add to the one who was assigned? Lareno and Sohor? I'm sorry. Not Mama Soriano, but Lareno and Sohor.
Yes, sir. Kami ni Sohor, sir.
Yes, go on.
Can you repeat the question, please?
So, Miss, you stated that there are 5 conditions of parenthood and personhood, and to be called as a being, one should at least meet some of the condition, if not all. And if the unborn or the fetus cannot form anything like thoughts and abilities, does that mean that the value as a human being depends on the complexity of the thoughts and abilities?
To answer your question, no. It doesn't only depend on the complexity of thoughts and feelings. Just like you stated, there are five characteristics, and thoughts and feelings are only part and not all of it. And regarding abortion, we support abortion because women have the right to their body, and fetus is not entirely a person, or a fetus is not a person, because just like you said, a fetus doesn't contain or does not experience those 5 things. And if you're gonna say about infants, at least infants contain several of these things, such as they are able to experience emotions, they are able to express their emotions, and they are also able to possess sentience. So
Next
just
question.
like what I said, sentience, emotionality, and rudiments.
Follow-up question.
If that's the case, a toddler is not a senior citizen. Would that mean that a toddler fewer experience, less consciousness, less ability to communicate, and etc. will be less of a moral crisis if we kill them?
We are talking about abortion and not toddlers, so I think that is
The question
apart
was
from this.
the question is
But
Lauren, the question is the toddler is incapable of usually communicating, expressing emotion, and those traits now mentioned in the Warren's theory. Are the toddler not a person? That's the question.
toddlers are still a person, sir, since they are able to somehow still express their sentience, their emotionality, and their rudiments. How are they able to express their sentience? So they are able to feel pleasure and pain by showing their facial expressions, by crying, and etc. However, fetuses are not able to show these 5 things, sir.
All right. Follow-up question.
So if you say that fetuses does not feel pleasure or does not contain the 5 condition of being a human person, how about the mentally ill person or the person who have been comatose, they don't have consciousness, they don't have reasoning, they do not have the five conditions to meet the human being. So is it okay, is it morally right to kill them, and it would be not call them a human being since they not meet the five conditions of being a human being?
Okay, I would like to answer. Let me just clarify that Warren emphasized that at least three combinations of those five criteria. If at least three of those are met, then you are already, or you can be considered a person. It is not a compulsory that the five criteria should be met.
Actually, only one, at least one of the five. So
Okay, so with that, given that it is the one that you said, the mentally ill, is not considered, killing them would not be considered would be considered immoral because they are already, or they met the criteria, or even one criterion of that given by Warren.
How about those comatose ones? They don't have consciousness, reasoning, or they can't self-motivated, they don't have self-awareness, and they don't have the capacity to the last criteria, yes.
are they not persons since those comatose patients don't have those kind of traits, according to Warren's theory? That's the question.
Okay, so they are considered person because they are already born, they are already part of the population, they're already part of the census, so they are already part of the person, or the group of people. So if we talk about the fetus, let's go back to the fetus because this is the case. The fetus is not yet born, it is not yet fully developed, it has no consciousness yet, unlike the comatose, which already developed, but it's just a temporary dilemma he is experiencing. And the fetus is not yet born, it has not been given birth yet. So I would like to also clarify that the human right starts at birth. It does not start from conception. So the case of killing fetus is moral because it is not part of the moral community yet, unlike the case of the comatose, which is already part of the community but was just resting temporarily.
All right, thank you, Suhor. So that's the end of the interpellation period since the time is already over. So let us proceed to the negative group. To the negative side, the group 7, who will be the first to share their stand or arguments.
Mr. Veles, sir, ako raw sa sir kay
Alright.
Paris ng tanim dayot.
Alright, so Velas, go on. If you can consume the 10 minutes, that would be good. Your time starts now.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Halbuna, classmates, good morning. We believe that this is not a debate between those who are pro-life and pro-choice, because the question of whether abortion is right or wrong begins with the question, on what kind of thing does abortion kill? That is why we are here to defend on a syllogism with our first premise that it is wrong to intentionally kill an innocent human being. With our second premise as abortion intentionally kills an innocent human being, and our conclusion that therefore abortion is wrong. We've seen people debating on this kind of matter, and if you try to ask them, yes, they don't disagree that intentionally killing a human being is wrong, but in fact, they deny that abortion does kill a human being. But it all boils down to the question, when does life begin? What makes a human and another thing not human? To answer these questions, we don't go to the Bible, we don't go to philosophy, but we go to the science of embryology to decide when life begins. And it states that zygote is the beginning of a human being. And our stand is that life begins at fertilization, which is similar to John P. Noonan's argument of person that life begins at conception. A human fetus is a human being even at its early stage of development. I know you may all have what ifs on your minds, like what if it threatens the life of the mother? What if it brings danger to the one who's conceiving it? What if it already outweighs the rights of the mother? Well, Noonan may think that abortion is always morally wrong. However, he has stated special exemptions for those. Abortion is morally wrong except to those circumstances, like having a cancerous uterus or an ectopic pregnancy, involve direct and obvious threats to the life of the mother and the life of the fetus. So let's go with our first premise that it is wrong to intentionally kill a human being. Seeing everyone here, even though with all your cameras closed, I see everyone as equal. But what makes us equal? We say it can't be physical ability because we don't share that equally. It can't be self-awareness because we don't share that equally. It can't be IQ because we don't share that equally as well. There's only one thing we share equally, and that is we all have the same human nature, and you got that human nature the moment you began to exist. The moment your parents produce an offspring. You may say that the embryo is different from us. You are right. It is. But is it different from us in a way in ways just justify killing it? I don't think so. We are valuable not by the virtue of things that we do, but we are valuable by the kind of things that we are. It is our basic human nature that gives us value. Every single individual in this class is a basic human nature, and that basic human nature gives us value, and that is why it is wrong to intentionally kill an innocent being. Let's once again focus to the question, when does life begin? There are a lot of conditions laid out in determining the personhood, and we believe that these conditions can't be arbitrary, vague, and must be morally relevant. Let me enumerate a few of these conditions. First, a fetus is a person and has a right to life when it becomes viable. If a fetus isn't viable, then why do fetuses among some human groups attain viability earlier than others with the use of technologies? Take it for instance. If you are born 24 weeks with very good medical care, you'd be viable. But let's say your mother took a trip to another country and for some reasons had to give birth at 24th week, and they don't have the medicine there and enough medical technology. Does that mean that a fetus won't be viable? If that's the case, then it would imply that your personhood hinges to the technology around you, which is arbitrary, and conditions can't be arbitrary. It is vague. It is ever shifting depending on one's technology. Second condition, experience, memories, and perceptions are required to be considered a human being. In this condition, experience is not well defined. If experience is narrowly defined and must include memory, then we can say that infants, children anywhere from birth to 1 year old, aren't persons. Another thing is that if experience is broadly defined here, the fetuses are persons because they have experiences. According to John Noonan's criticism on this argument, the human conceptus reacts to stimuli at 8 weeks, and at least that point is experiencing. And to that, those comatose or catatonic adults are presumably human beings. A fetus is a human. Not everyone has experiences, and that others claim that they have no experiences, although think that they have does not mean that they are no longer human. Assuming a man loses its recollections or encounters, does it imply that he is, as of now, not an individual? The appropriate answer is no. There is no reason to think that experience should count for humanity. Last condition would be social visibility. The human conceptus is not able to communicate and is not a member of society. This is relevant. Why? Because personhood isn't about how others view you. It is about you. This is also too narrow because would you deny personhood to any isolated individual? For example, I survived from a plane crash and got isolated in an island alone by myself for a year. Does that mean I am no longer human? or a person? Any division of human being from non-human being in terms of social visibility would open the door to great injustice. We strongly believe that life begins at conception. Have you ever heard of a Polaroid cameras? Where you take photo and it automatically prints it out. Take it for instance. You are in a safari and you shot a picture of a black jaguar. There almost never a photograph of it, and you got it. And right as you were waiting for for the picture to develop, I ripped the camera out of your hand and tear up the paper. Will you be angry at me? I bet you would. What if I said to you, what's the big deal? There's no jaguar in the paper. It's purely ink on it. I bet you'll even get mad. Why? Because if you tried to see it, the jaguar in the picture was already there. We just didn't see it yet because he hadn't developed. The same scenario as pregnancy. Men and women, you are already there from that one cell stage. We just didn't see you yet because you had yet to develop. That is why we believe in the argument that if a human conceptus is conceived by a human parents, then it is a human being. A human conceptus is conceived by human parents. Therefore, a human conceptus is a human being. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for that. Delivering your arguments and your stand on anti-abortion, Velez. Let's proceed to the interpellation reverse. The group 1 will ask the questions to the group 7.
Okay, I would like to ask the first question.
Yes.
So, among the conditions, you have said that a fetus is a human being. But do you think that, or do you really consider it a person who is part of the moral society or a moral community who can enjoy the same human rights as you?
Yes. Since we are basing to Nunan's stand, we believe that human life begins at the moment of conception, no? So kanang moral agents kay na
Follow-up question.
Okay, so you said in your stand that human life begins at conception. So if human life begins at conception, then why is it not part of our human population?
You answer?
I guess I believe that because it is still developing, it is not considered as part of the community since it is developing, but since it is a human being. So as part of that, that's it.
Follow-up question.
Yes, you have already said that it is a human being. Therefore, it is not a person who has to, be part of the moral community to experience the same rights as we do, right?
No, because as you can see, the comatose person are they don't have meet the 5 condition, as you said earlier that they are the comatose person experience it temporarily, as same as the fetuses. They need to develop in order to fit the 5 condition. At first they don't contain 5 condition, and as they develop they gradually meet the condition. As the comatose person, you said they have 5, they meet the 5 conditions, then they lost the 5 condition, and gradually they will meet the 5 condition. That's as well the same as the fetuses, right? They don't have the 5 condition, gradually they meet the 5 conditions.
Questions?
But you said that life starts at conception. It means they are already human. So you're contradicting yourself because you said that they don't have yet the 5 things, the 5 criterion. So does that mean a fetus is not a human being?
No. I mean, yes, they are human being. They have the potential of having the conditions. So we're not basing in five conditions. So about the basing the fetus is a human being or not. So we believe in science that uh, in contraception it is the start of the human life as the person to person the offspring together, then as the egg and the sperm cell fertilize it will start a new life and through contraception.
All right, next question. Or other questions?
You said a human being contains a DNA, so that does mean individual cells are also human beings? Does that mean mutated cells such as cancerous cells are human beings? Do they not deserve to be removed from our body?
Having a DNA sequence is another being part of the I mean basing a being a human is not is basing on its chromosomes, right? But then having the cells, the other cells are not considered as human being since they don't meet the five condition as you said. So they are not human beings. As the fetuses, as the fetuses,
To the rebuttal na lang. Let's start with the positive. Loreto. For 3 minutes.
A fetus is not a person. All and only persons have full moral rights. A fetus, therefore, does not have full moral rights. Moreover, a woman's right to protect her health, happiness, freedom, and even her life by terminating an unwanted pregnancy will always override whatever right to life it may be appropriate to ascribe to a fetus, even a fully developed one. So, a pregnant woman has a moral right to an abortion. Personhood is believed to be the ground of the special moral status that human beings enjoy. Persons have the capacity for acquiring a sense of self and engaging intelligently with the external world. Being capable of these operations are worthy of special respect. If personhood is the ground of moral status, it is, therefore, of crucial importance to determine whether the fetus is a human person. If the fetus is a person, then it should be accorded the same rights and privileges as are enjoyed by adult human beings. And if it is not a person, it need not be. Warren points out that the two most popular arguments in favor of legal abortion are this. First is empirical. If abortion were illegal, then harm would come to pregnant mothers, both by forcing them to carry to term a child they may not want, which is both psychologically traumatic and physically painful, and also because there will likely still be illegal back alley abortions, which will sometimes result in death due to lack of sterile or safe techniques. Second is moral. If abortion were illegal, this would be a violation of the mother's moral right to say what happens to and in her own body, since her body is her own property to do with as she pleases. Warren rejects this argument straight away. If fetuses have full moral status, that is, if killing a fetus is as wrong as murdering an adult human being, then the fact that some harm will come to the mother, psychological or physical, does not justify her murdering of the fetus. That would be like saying that if the mere existence of someone disturbed me psychologically, it would then be permissible to murder him. Clearly, this is false. As Warren states, mere ownership does not give me the right to kill innocent people whom I found on my property. Property rights are weak at best, so justifying the killing of the fetus on the basis of a property right is not a promising tactic. Imagine that you found an innocent child sleeping on your couch. Surely, it would be wrong to murder her. But if fetuses have full moral status, abortion is just like that. So if the fetus has full moral status, then abortion is morally wrong. But if the fetus does not have full moral status, As Warren will argue, then abortion is permissible. Women have a moral right to decide what to do with their bodies.
All
The
right.
right to abortion
Thank
is
you,
vital.
Loreto. So the time is over. Right, let's proceed to, is it you, Lario, who will deliver the rebuttal for the group 7?
Yes, sir.
Alright, go on. Your time starts now.
Okay, so my opponent gave a lot of interesting points, and I agree to them. If and only the unborn isn't a person. So you have said that there are 5 traits that are necessary conditions to qualify a being as a full-fledged member of a moral community. When we say full-fledged member, we say that they have rights. And you said that the traits are the consciousness, reasoning, self-motivated activity, ability to communicate, and possession of self-awareness. But if you say that a fetus has no or insignificant moral rights since it does not have any of the 5 traits listed, and the rights of something which has the potential of becoming a person when weighted against the rights of someone who is already an actual person are insignificant, then you are confusing human development with construction. Because we humans, I used humans because it is a biological term, we are not like cars, from which a car is not present from the beginning and it requires an outside builder to put all of the pieces together to form a car. We human beings don't develop piece by piece. We develop ourselves from within. The unborn's development is different. The fetus development is different. It directs its own internal growth and maturation and entails the continuity of being. So here another thing about that is those who are bringing those who are said that they are already part. They are still considered because they are already part. I think Warren's argument is confusing. She should have stated that there will be exemptions in her argument. And another thing that the opponent said, that it is just a temporary situation. He had all of the qualities before. Isn't scenario with the fetuses? Being a fetus is just a temporary phase, and soon they will develop. Just like what our stand says, that just like the Polaroid camera and the Jaguar, we humans, we cannot see fetus as a fetus. We cannot see ourselves yet, but we are to develop into a person, into a human, we are to develop to be viable. That is why it is, for me, it is very confusing. So here, for our part, we believe that of the science of embryology, we believe that conception starts at, life begins at conception. And the science of embryology made it clear. From the earliest stage of development, the fetus, the unborn are distinct, living, and whole human beings. Therefore, every successful abortion ends the life of a living human being. That is why we think that abortion is right. Thank you.